looking great, mate. You're looking great.
Right then, recording. Shane Jurgensen, yo, good to see you. It's been a while. Well, it's been a long time since I've had a good conversation with you. How you doing, man? How's things?
Yeah, good. Yeah, just a tough time for the world at the moment. So we're in a small town called Omokoro in New Zealand, and
Sorry, where are you? Where's that?
uh, it's just north of Tauranga. So Mount Maunganui. There's a few games played here this year. A test against England and a couple of games against India. So
Oh, you in the
I'm visiting. Yeah, but little coastal town. Couldn't afford the mounts,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but but a nice little family coastal sort of community, and I can see the mount from home. So it's a really good spot, and we're certainly out of the way of as I said, a tough time at the moment for the world, what everyone's going through. So so far so good. Everyone's healthy and safe in the area that I'm in.
You've got your 14 kids all packed up there. Everything all right?
There's still two in Brisbane. So believe it or not, I was actually thinking about, so in New Zealand, the big battle has been trying to find flour. So for baking, when over there is you've seen it probably all over the news, is toilet paper. So we've actually had to send over toilet paper to the boys. But there's still they're all good now, but we had to do that a few weeks ago when it was all sort of panic stations. And I was coming back from Sydney. We got rushed back. We had a meeting, and then all of a sudden we got told by the manager, Mike Sandel, to you got an hour to pack your bags, and so we can get back into New Zealand. And so that was pretty quick. And then so it was all in a bit of a hurry, and that I saw firsthand while I was there, the whole toilet paper thing. I went to one Woolworths thing, and there was none there. I just went, this is actually happening. But but in New Zealand it's flour. We can't get flour, so everyone's baking.
Everyone's baking a lot of bread. And I got back here a week ago today, but we found Dad and I found a place that did 10 and 20 kilo bags of flour. So while it wasn't particularly practical, it's us walking home with a couple of 10 kilo bags of flours on our shoulder. So they've got bread. Yeah, they'll be fine. Hey, what was that Sydney experience like? Let's start most recent, I guess. Going to Sydney, there was a bit of a cloud hanging over it to start with, and then one of the Australians went down with a bit of a rusty singing voice, and he was sort of taken out and tested, and then Lockie Ferguson gets a rusty singing voice at the end of that first game. What was all that like? What was that game like, firstly, and then what was sounds like a pretty quick extraction.
It was certainly a unique experience. Going over there, we weren't too sure what was going to be installed for us, and you try and do it. It was tough on the players, I think, on all of us to have something like that going on in the background, and something obviously extremely serious. And so we got one game in, and then we all of a sudden the next day it sort of felt like something was going to happen. It just things escalated pretty quickly, and each day, sometimes each hour, and I think one of the Aussie players was simple, like a cold, I think, and then Lockie was something similar at the end, and next minute there was Jacinda Ardern over here called for everyone to get back ASAP, and then before it was going to be difficult to get back into the country, so and I think the way that the games were scheduled, we were in Sydney for 2, then we're going down to Hobart. And getting out of Hobart, I imagine Hobart, you've got to go up to Melbourne, then back over to New Zealand. So that sort of, that possible scenario of getting, being difficult to get out of Hobart, it just made, the common sense decision to postpone that tour for now. I'm sure it'll be played in a later date.
Is that weird though? So as bowling coach, you've walked a few boundaries in a few different countries and a few different climates. Was that sort of strange, because you are a bit of a get around and pass a drink to the bowler at third man, final leg? You quite enjoy getting out amongst it. Was that a weird sort of feeling out there talking to the bowlers, and you could actually almost talk across the ground to them?
Well, typically Sydney, because Sydney, you normally cop a lot of abuse. So, as you would remember, I remember a lot of times in Sydney, I'd be sitting there waiting to give the bowler a drink at fine leg. Obviously quite hot, and next minute someone's squirting me with a water pistol or a water gun. It's like, and then a couple people in sombreros on the far side giving it, Mexican, giving you some spray. So, certainly to walk around and literally be less people than a club game was an unbelievable experience. Certainly one I've never experienced before at, being around international level.
Yeah.
Privileged to be there for a while now. I've never seen it before. There was literally no one in the crowd. So, it was very quiet.
Did the guys sort of just say it was like playing a domestic game of cricket with no crowd? Did they sort of talk about it much, the either team?
Yeah, certainly a little bit like that. I think there was less people than a domestic game, to be honest. I think it was literally the scorers and a few scorers and journalists, the Fox crew. So, there wasn't interviews were done on the spider cam from 2 or 3 meters away. So that the guy, that's a new experience. I mean, we did experience that in the Test series around Christmas, New Year, with the spider cam, but I think that's the name for it. But that the guys, was certainly a lot of distance interviews going on. So the whole thing, it's sort of certainly something that everyone's got used to it now. But it was definitely a unique experience, and unfortunately we couldn't get the win, but at the same time, it's sort of doesn't come into it really, of all the how serious the situation is.
Yeah. Hey, how long have you now been bowling coach of the New Zealand team, the BlackCaps? How long have you been? You've had a couple of bits, if I'm not mistaken. How long have you been there now?
Yeah, I think it's coming up to middle of the 8th year. I think 7th or 8th year. So it was just under 3 years last time, 2000 and sort of late 8 through to late 2010, 2.5, and then went away and then came back with Hess. Lindsay Crocker and Hess got me back in March 2016. First thing was T20 World Cup in India.
Sure.
So now it's another 4 years again. So it's certainly flowing. It's interesting. You sort of in the team and the difference between the team then and now, and it's sort of evolved a lot, but at the same time, there's a lot of similar characteristics, and a few of the guys are still there now. They've children, babies, all growing up, and seen all the guys on that side of the fence. I think I saw Trent Bolt. He's a good example. Trent Bolt is a 17-year-old in the middle of 2008 at the what was that called? The tournament in Brisbane, the under-21 tournament. I can't remember what it's called, but him and Corey Anderson, and him and I always laugh because I thought he was a batter. As a little skinny boy just out of school. He might have been still at school. I thought he was a batter, just running bowling a few little left arm medium paces, but obviously he's certainly a lot better than that, and has proven so over the last sort of 8 to 10 years now. He's done fantastically well. So,
you on that? That was that trip where we started up in Cairns, wasn't it? Were you on that trip?
I was actually think that one was the year before. I was actually playing because Peter Fulton gives me a lot of crap about that, saying, and he whipped me for 4. And in a T20 game, my first ever T20 game at some sort of level, and Peter gives me a lot of.
No, I just remember. I remember going up to Cairns or Darwin, one of the two for a. It was like a New Zealand A tour, and we took 4 or 5 of the under 19s, under 18s, and that was the Trents, the Tims, the Kanes, the Coreys, and then there was Greg, who of the under 18s, under 19s that we took, he was the only one that didn't go on. It was quite a phenomenal group. So you've basically been from start to finish for say Trent and Tim and Kane and Corey. Sadly injuries, etc. But you've basically seen them from childhood into your parenthood.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal to see the guys' growth and how good they've become. Like obviously Kane, is the been fantastic. He's always scored runs for the team, and ever since a young man, he came into the team, and you could tell then it was like, he's got a real determination about him and about batting. Love batting. It's funny because he even bowls the nets now every now and then, and he'll bowl a few offies, and then his next minute he's practicing his shaping up. He's in his stance and the bat lift. It's like and it's the same person. 10 years later, still doing the same stuff and working on his game. And Tim was a young man when he first broke through. I think I ran into you the first time was actually at a training camp in Brisbane in the A tour of that Cairns series. I think that's when I first met Hess.
Yep.
And I think you guys went on. I just think I was helping out with your preparations in Brisbane before you went up north. So, it was amazing, to see the guys develop. And it was, it was hard in between the two stints I've had with the team. It was hard being away from them because I saw them develop so well and seeing them, careers even grow even further. So whenever the team I was involved in Bangladesh playing New Zealand, it was always awkward because, you develop such a relationship with guys, and next minute you're actually coaching the opposition.
That's right. You went to. So New Zealand had that was the Alan Donald sort of section of the bowling coach, wasn't it? After you.
Alan came in just after me. So John Wright he became the coach. So when I first got involved in New Zealand, John Wright got me into New Zealand cricket, and I started at Canterbury, and I was only there for 2 months, and they still give me a lot of grief about that. The Tom Lathams and and Henry Nichols and Matt Henry. I think Henry Nichols go, did you? I saw you once. I'm not sure. And it doesn't go away. And then Hamish Bennett, who's I'll bump into him. He's the same. And anyway, so it was quite unique. And then Andy Moles got me involved with the team, and I met Andy, and such a fantastic opportunity to get involved. And I think Andy and then me and you and me bumped into each other in Dunedin in the first test against might have been the West Indies. So I was, and I think but so from there, Alan, when I finished, John Wright took over. And Alan Donald came in, and then I had a period off, and then, Stuart Law called me one day out of the blue. I said, I might have a job for you. And he was at the time in Sri Lanka as an interim head coach. And I thought, he's going to be going to Sri Lanka. Okay, well, he might be continuing. I was just guessing. And next minute, no, I'm going to Bangladesh. And I went, okay. I was surprised. And then next minute, I was involved in, we had a couple of weeks. Next minute, I've moved with him. I've actually moved into him with him in Bangladesh in his apartment. And my first series, I was there for 2 days, and then all of a sudden it just hit me. I'm in Bangladesh. It's stinking hot, humid, and then all of a sudden we're playing West Indies, and Shivnarine Chanderpaul in the Test series was scoring runs at will, and I was all of a sudden we had a good 1 day series against them, and that you sort of moved through, and Stuart was very good and supportive for me. And then Stuart moved on, and then all of a sudden I was in the right place at the right time. We had Richard Pybus come in for a short period, and then right place, right time. Next minute I'm the interim head coach, and it's like, wow, okay, it's all happened. And a year later we're playing West Indies, and again Chanderpaul scored a few runs in the test, but we had a fantastic 1 day series. With this 1 day series actually started, the second test was in Khulna, and then we had a few days off, and the first 2 1 days were in Khulna. And if you're familiar, everyone who's been to Bangladesh will be aware that Khulna, you got to fly into I think the name's changed recently, but it's called Jasori. And you got to fly in there, then you got nearly a 1.5 to 2 hour bus ride, depending on the traffic, to Khulna. So the West Indians, they got stuck in this hotel for over 2 weeks, and then I think they were at breaking point, and then we managed to play well, and then it was a very unique series. To see the pride in the Bangladeshi players and the crowd, obviously when they have wins, they certainly let the opposition know.
You operate, and I say this I say this nicely. You operate a lot differently to a lot of coaches. I think that I've had and other people have had. You are the most calm and the most laid back Australian I think I've ever met. You have some very New Zealand traits about you, Shane. No, you have this demeanour that is calm and caring. Is that always been you, or is that something that you've worked on as a coach to sort of understand the player as opposed to understand the person as opposed to understanding the player?
Yeah, I think that's sort of been come through as me, as a person, my upbringing in cricket. For me, to even get to play cricket myself personally, I played for 3 states in Australia. I had to move away and get out of my comfort zone when I was a 20-year-old and moved to Perth and spent 3 or 4 summers there, then moved to Tassie. So, and then eventually my dream was to eventually play for Queensland, and that finally happened when I was 26 or 27. And I think, playing at 3 different cricket clubs, playing for 3 different states in Australia, and having to work hard and seeing all the different dynamics of the teams and the camaraderie, good examples and really bad examples, and examples of teams that came out of being in a hole. So understanding all those different things. And, for me, I had, as a cricketer, I had to really work hard to get there. And I think I've managed to have an understanding of how hard it is. And international cricket is extremely hard, mentally and physically. And I say mentally first, because I think that's a real key part, is that belief and that battle, that if you can get over that hurdle and get through it, that's the main thing. And I think for me, I just want to listen to players and get an understanding, because I never played international cricket. So, I'll never forget one of my experiences with Dan Vittori. He said to me, "Jurgo, I want you to have a camp with me." And I'm going, "Ooh, a camp." So he wanted to have 3 days to explain the camp. Yeah. 3 days in Auckland, fly up to Auckland, wherever I was based in. I think it was Christchurch. He wanted to work on a few things, and I'm, if you know me, I bowl bouncy outswingers. So, and then, and I wasn't that quick. And I did try to bowl. I do have one off spin.
And you do a bloody good Stewie. You do a really good Stuart Clark, actually.
Yeah. So, and then next in it, the quick front arm and get through. And so Dan goes, and I'm just going, okay, Dan Vittori, 300 plus test wickets or one-day wickets, or what it is, a lot more than me. Not a bad bowler, good arm ball, etc. And I'm going, okay. And I think for me, my grounding as a coach, I worked with little kids in these primary school camps, kids cricket on Friday afternoons, there was a horrific time to have it. I mean, Friday, why have that at 3:30? I've got all their frustrations coming out at me at our little kids cricket, my business that I had, and working through different age groups. I had that, and then private coaching, and then kids in adolescent years, so understanding bowling actions at different age groups, etc. And that gave me an opportunity to be able to watch the technique of bowlers. So, for example, with Dan, it was about, I could tell when he bowled well, I could tell when he couldn't quite bowl well. And then, so we worked on what I thought and observed when he bowled well with his action, his run up. So it was just those little things. And I think having an understanding of where the player's coming from and what they need, and developing a trust between the two people.
Yeah, with Dan, let's use Dan as an example because you've handily brought him up. When you were spending time with Dan, and when you were locking in, I guess you're kind of locking in his pattern to see then when it falls apart. So you're trying to lock in his action into your memory to then see when there's a difference, or are you looking for something? What are you looking for when you can tell he's bowling well, apart from the ball coming out well?
Yeah, I think for Dan and for all the spinners, I've been lucky to, we've got such a fantastic experience post Dan with Bangladesh and Shakib Al Hassan, Abdur Razak. There was quite a few and a lot of spin, obviously. And I think for me, it was about what the ball's doing, what's the ball doing out of his hand, where is it going, where's the general line of attack. And I think the best spinners in the world, they basically are so accurate. That, and being able to do all those things, drift, drop, and there's always, it's very rare that a bowler can do everything. Like, it's very rare that a guy can bowl 6 outswingers in a row, top of off, and that's the same thing with spin. It's very and with the perfect action. Now, there's always going to be, if there's 4 elements to a bowling action, a bowler will have three really good and one that's always a consistent work on.
Sure.
And I think, So with Dan, it was always about making sure he was accurate. His bowling arm was, because he used to come up and have his arm here. As soon as this angle got too long, he seemed to get long, and then he didn't have that amazing drift and deception he had against the batter. And if he didn't have that, it seemed to always go in one direction, and that's sort of a common theme.
So you were looking. So obviously, ball coming out of the hand is a pretty good judge of how well someone's bowling. But you were looking at the consistency of his action. You were keeping track of where his body was.
Yeah, and also his run up. So because he's a tall guy, the big thing that, like, when we had our camp, was that we discovered that in his first 2 or 3 steps, he had a long bowling stride. Mm-hmm. And for a spinner, a long bowling stride, and then what happens is when you develop your speed into the crease, all of a sudden it's very rare, unless you have a stutter, that the stride length gets smaller. So all of a sudden it gets longer and longer, and the feet get longer, and the ability to get up and over that front leg.
Yeah.
And then, and for me, that was like in that period. And then as my coaching's gone on, I've gone from being technical focus because I was where I came from, and then all of a sudden the way the game's gone, developed so much tactically in terms of the analysis, the video that we got, all the bits and pieces. So it went from looking at technique, looking at accuracy, and the old, looking at maidens, how many maidens are they bowling, how many runs they're getting. All of a sudden you broke it down to it. Now it's about matchups, trends, who's the best bowler against this batter, and obviously the conditions. And I think it's changed so much. I look at back now and where it is now, the ability for an individual player to adapt to any situation, to be flexible, is a really crucial element. And that then flows into a player really needing to work on all parts of their game.
So how many bits of data are you counting? I go back to the start when you were bowling coach. You were counting how many overs we bowled at training, and that was about it. That's unfair. Sorry, Jurgo. How did you bowl today?
All right, balls then maidens. Got maidens, balls. Did you get in the right area?
How many stats are you counting now, and how many bits of data analysis are you doing now before a game, before a matchup, or is that out of your hands?
No, it's and that's the great thing about being in with New Zealand cricket, because it's every international team or every international organisation in cricket have different budgets. So the New Zealand cricket budget, for example, is not the same as Australia, or India. And you're talking about powers of the game in terms of finances. With New Zealand, it's about adapting and trying to find ways that what have we got, we've got to work in our limitations and really find ways to, the information that we got, which is a lot better now compared to when I first started, is that where can we get people out? And it's amazing how it's changed, but at the same time, it actually hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
But there is little things that you can pick up on players. Like, big thing now is, you're a right arm seamer. It's an expectation now that a right arm seamer must be able to come around the wicket to a left-hander.
Yeah.
When probably back in 2009 and 10, we did it a bit as a variation, but now all of a sudden you'll go, right, you see Broad in England, a left-hander comes in, and if that, Broady comes in, if there's a player that is something like that, they'll expose it. And it certainly happens a lot quicker now than probably it has in the past. So that's the challenge of the international player to be able to, again, as I say, be adaptable to all different scenarios that the opposition will throw.
I just think this is a good opportunity to celebrate that my first wicket was right arm round the wicket to a left-hander. So just thought
Good.
Just thought I'd drop that one in there. Yeah, a little. I'll just put it to one side for a sec. Yeah, that's. I'm now embarrassed myself.
Good.
What is it? So you've had a lot of jobs. That's a lot of travelling. New Zealand, Canterbury first, and then the New Zealand, and then Bangladesh, and over there. How many houses do you reckon you've shifted into in the last 10 years, backwards and forwards to Australia? No, I'm being serious, because this is you cover some stupid kilometres. You've got a family. You've done there's a lot of stress behind the scenes.
Oh, I've had a lot of support. My wife and kids have been very patient. And, in the first part, I was in my first part of being with New Zealand, based out of Christchurch. But I was able to commute a lot. When I was in Bangladesh, because of, again, children at school, my wife and kids had to stay there.
Yeah.
So they came over to Bangladesh a few times. They, quite liked it. It's an interesting place. Like, there's some really cool things there that I think children need to see, but at the same time really appreciate. And that was good. Then I was in Fiji for 2 years, and that was a unique experience. Being, getting the Fiji boys to the World Cup for the first time, under 19s, and then the senior men's team was quite good. And then back to New Zealand. But this time when I moved to this, we always had the long-term plan to move to New Zealand. Probably came a bit quicker than what we wanted, but with my role this time, it was a lot more because in my role in New Zealand, it's not just being the bowling coach. I'm working with. I spent time this last summer with the NZA team, winter training. It's called the Winter Training Squad, the high performance unit in Christchurch. So if we're not on tour, we're generally doing stuff in and around the country, visiting domestic teams. So my role is actually quite big. And I think although at times that's what I was referring to before, and I probably didn't answer your question correctly in terms of the detail. And, with New Zealand cricket, what you might miss out in terms of, as I said, the financial side of things. It gives you, as a coach, a fantastic opportunity to work on so many little things, like in terms of your development as a coach. As I said, NZA, Winter Training Squad, working with domestic teams. I sort of lead look to sort of push and lead the bowling loading program around the country. So with that, you got all that, plus scouting the opposition, plus come up with bowling plans. So it's quite detailed.
When you are at home, how long do you get to spend a lot of time at home?
Well, that's one of the big benefits of being now moved to New Zealand for nearly 3 years. We're renovating and we're very settled. And the bonus is that we're playing a lot of games in New Zealand on the North Island. So we might play 2 games in Christchurch a year at the moment, and 1 in Dunedin, and then a majority of the games of who we have played, for some reason we just play a lot more games on North Island, and where we live, we're an hour and a half from one ground, 2.5 from another ground, and we're playing a lot more games here, so family's not too far away.
Oh, you've done all right then.
I just drive a lot.
Yeah, exactly. How do you? Okay, let's take that New Zealand Test series in Australia, early this summer. New Zealand had a pretty good. New Zealand's going pretty good at Test cricket. Head to Australia and not going to. It's not an ambush, but just those bowlers too good on those surfaces. How does that? I've been in a few of those changing rooms when it gets a bit tough. But how is that in a changing room that's been winning, and then gets ripped to bits a bit? I think that's reasonably fair. Gets ripped to bits by a bowling attack that's just a bit too good. How does that the highs of winning Test matches and then getting smashed in a couple? How was that changing room?
Oh, it was certainly tough for, to be on any tour anywhere around the world, and you suffered some loss. It was, it's tough. But I think what you try to do is you look to what we've done and look at where we can get better in the future. And I think, and it's just those little small adjustments. And it was a tough tour for us. And I really felt for the guys that at times, because we sort of, in games, there was periods where we certainly showed that we have the way that we have been playing Test cricket, and we just sort of didn't do it for long enough with the bat or the ball. And it's proven in the scores. You saw it, and there were so many. You take the positives, you try to look forward, you make small adjustments for the next Test series. And, to see the way that we bounced back against India was, a testament to that. In Australia, you look back and the positives were some of the most performances. The crowds were amazing. Neil Wagner's performance with the ball.
Yeah.
Tom Blundell with the bat in Melbourne. And the support that we got was probably something I'd never experienced. When you're in Bangladesh and you got, 20, 30,000 there, and Dhaka, it's pretty loud. But, the way that the stuff that they were saying, how smart they were, the crowd, and, I had a friend of mine actually just lives down the road. I only just got to know him, and he was in the crowd. I didn't even know him then that well, and then I've got to know him post it, and he's sort of was telling, he was in the inner sanctum of Bay 13 or whatever it is. Like he was, told me a few of the things, and just this, the World Cup was amazing. The World Cup final was an unbelievable experience. Very similar, small sort of section of the crowd, maybe a quarter, and a similar sort of. But Boxing Day Test is unbelievable. But there were so many. There's nice, good little performances, but as a team, we just couldn't quite get it right. But as I said, the way that we came back against India was fantastic.
How tiring is it for you when a team's doing well, when a team's not doing so well? Let's say bowlers aren't having a good time of it. How you've got to come up with something. You got to find a way to motivate a guy, or you got to find a way to get a tweak him back into bowling well in the middle of a Test match. How tiring is that on your shoulders?
I think, you sort of you come back to all the things that you did prior to the Test series. So, we have our bowlers meetings, whether it be in a group or, one-on-one, you come up with your plans, how you're going to attack that batter, how generally do we want to attack this as a bowling group. And all you can really do is refer back to those. That's probably your first starting point.
Yeah.
And then you sort of refer that in relation to the pitch, and how the pitch evolves over a Test match. And then how the opposition play, and that's the most amazing thing about cricket is there's so many variables, so many things. You've got the guy at the other end holding the bat, and they're pretty good, and we're pretty good, and it's just a real battle at that point in time. And I think sometimes it's just little things like it can be anything from a simple question, have you tried this? Have you considered this? Do you want to, shift your attack to this? Or it might be the fact that, you're talking to a guy and he just wants to get stuff off his chest. And I might pop down a fine leg and, he might kick the water bottle and, or we don't have too many guys like that. They're pretty calm. Everyone's very calm actually. But sometimes there's frustrations and you sort of just have to listen and try and get a feel for where they're at mentally. And that's sort of like what we sort of spoke about at the start.
But that's tiring, man. That's tiring on you. So where do you unload? So if you've got players unloading on you, looking for something, where do you unload? How do you get your pickup?
Oh, I think, it's just something that I've been doing for a while now. And, you sort of head back and it's a process thing. So because you're doing a process, you try to stick to a bit of a process and the process is reasonably consistent. Then you got to adjust it every now and then. Yeah. And, I've got great support in my role now from, I've always worked with some great people, but, Gary's been very empowering to me to give me an opportunity to speak to the group or to small groups or, he's just given me the reins and that's been happening with every coach that I've worked with. But just talking about now, our coaching group, we sort of, we support each other. And that's, it'll be a beer or not that this is beer, it's a ginger ale, but, it might, it might be a couple of quiet ones and just talking about the game. For me and for me is ringing home. I'm surprised a 3-year-old hasn't come smashing on the door yet. Where are you, Dad? So that's in the end. And I think that's also the players that they help as well because they're all the same now. They all got families, so there comes a time where you just got to park cricket and then get back to what's really important.
I think that was one of the things I wanted to go to. Do you think with so many of them being dads now and having, I think it's a lot easier for partners and kids to travel now than it has been. Do you think that plays a massive part that they can't just park with cricket and as a player you can become dad again as opposed to constantly thinking about your cricket and being anxious about the next day and missing out on sleep? Do you think that being a father, being a dad is helping quite a few of them?
Oh, certainly. It just gives them an opportunity to have that break and be quite, well-grounded. And obviously, what the tough time that everyone's going through at the moment with coronavirus, with the illnesses around the world, that also, it brings it to home. And I think, but yeah, everyone's got family. So, at the end of the day, we're playing a game of cricket and it's very serious and it's our livelihoods and you want to win. But there's also a period of time when there's so many things, the guys are very grounded. The New Zealand team is so fantastic at understanding where they're at around also the fans. And I think that's been a real shift for me. This team does so much. I don't even know how the guys do it sometimes. I mean, they and it's fantastic. They'll do so much. And I think that also keeps them grounded. So they've got families. But when we go to a new place in New Zealand, there's always a coaching camp. There's a cricket camp on. There's a coaching camp on. I mean, I've been to a few this year myself. There's, sponsor visits. Yeah. They got so much on. At the end of the game, the pens come out and they're straight out there to sign autographs. And, it's just such a fantastic, feeling and a love towards the team. And I think that really helps the guys as well.
No, that's been a word that I've outside looking in, Jurgo, as a cricket fan, but also as a black cap. There's a real outside looking in again that I can tell that there is a lot of love in that group. There's a real I'll say very different to back in the team that I was playing, and there was love there, but it was of a different kind. This team just seems to just have so much fun together. on the park, off the park. It just looks a real beautiful place.
Yeah, and just all it is just simple. Love's probably the word, respect, and they really enjoy each other's company, and it's almost like in a lot of ways, you think to your family and you got brothers and sisters and you got kids, and it's almost like it's also that level of keeping each other grounded. Yeah. And there's a bit of that as well. Like the test squad, for example. When Tim and Trent start, it's just carnage. They just bring so much calmness to the team as well. And then you got Neil Wagner, then you got DeGrand home, and he just chips in away every now and then. Wags is cat in the hot tin roof because with the test matches start, next minute he turns up, he's pumped, ready to go.
Yeah.
Tim and Trent, Tim and Trent, it's so funny. Like, we might have lost a couple of wickets, and the next minute they'll just pop into the viewing room and little things like this, and they'll go, well, what's going on? Just relax, guys. Just relax. It's okay. Like, what's going on? No, just relax. That's okay. Like, and they'll just do little things like that, and it's almost like, and that sort of helps. And then next minute, they're just doing things. They have fun. They're doing little things.
These are the kids that when I was playing that would sort of towards the end. Well, I played a little bit with Tim, a couple of games with Trent, but they wouldn't say much in those sort of scenarios. And now it's quite hard for me to see them as I don't want to say as adults, but as grown men as senior players in that team. But I can see them being very good at taking the chill out of the air, exactly like you just said. But that's quite a skill as well.
Oh yeah, you got to pick your moment, and obviously, some of the batters, maybe don't always appreciate it, but they just want to focus on what's going on. But at the same time, we've got so many guys that are like that, and I think it also comes through the systems of New Zealand cricket now, which is great because you've got, they spend a lot of time together with domestic cricket, and then they've come through, and then they integrate with, winter training squad. You got guys from all around New Zealand. Then, the NZA program, which is was quiet for a while, but that's back up and running, which is awesome. So all of a sudden you've got, again, guys that are pushing each other, competitive, but at the same time they're spending a lot of time with each other. And, it's sort of, when you have a lot of that interaction, it makes, a new player come to the team, really welcome. And it's a special place. And, we have our presentation of the caps before every game, every test. That's what we do. And I look forward to everyone. And I just sit in my little corner with my shirt on and obviously my jeans and what we wear to it. And I just, we have a guest come in, and we have guests that blow me away, guests that just make me go, wow. And the whole, every time we do that before a test, I just love it. And it makes me go, yeah, I'm really lucky to be doing what I'm doing. I'm so privileged. I'm very grateful. I'm honoured. And it makes me, I've even cried in some, we had Ross Taylor's 100th test, and I was given this one, because he had his family there, and me and Smith was talking, and, just things like that. It's really special, and it's just got a great balance to it.
It just seems like it has a real maturity, a sort of egos put to one side, and everyone's just caring about everyone, which is credit to everybody and the staff on the sidelines and everybody playing. It's just awesome. How does when it wasn't going so good, Jurgo, and as a bowler, if I have a couple of bad games, I start thinking about, well, when I was going okay, if I have a couple of bad games, a couple of games where I haven't taken too many wickets and gone for a few, I start thinking about, when is the end of, am I going to play the next test, or am I going to get another game? Is there an element that happens with you as a coach? Maybe not so much, certainly not so much now, but was there an element of, gee whiz, how many games do I get here if the bowling group doesn't do so well? Does that affect you?
Oh, it can be difficult because you've always got guys that are on the edge. You've got guys that's, it is tough at times. The World Cup, for example, you got 15 guys there, and 4 guys unfortunately miss out every game. And there's always going to be that 1 or 2 spots that might be considered on the edge. Then you got guys that have been playing, and you look to try and be as positive as you can. You look to be also honest, because like, without it being, it's not brutal, but it's just highlighting little things that maybe that attack on that day didn't quite go to plan, and there might be a ball that's executed, and then we go back to training. And our trainings are very competitive, so despite the fact that it's all a great environment, when it comes to the training ground, our practices, they get quite competitive, and I think that's obviously as a coaching group we need to set that up, and making sure that the bowlers are versus the batters, it's the best against the best, and you got that intensity, and making sure that our preparation is as sharp as it can be and as specific as possible.
What about you as a coach, though? Going back earlier in your career, when you were working with the team and the team wasn't doing so good, did you start to feel that, oh, geez, my job's... Did you feel like a player that you could be not selected for the next tour?
Oh, certainly, yeah, and that happened. That happened when I first finished with New Zealand first time.
Yeah.
We had a very tough tour to India, the one-day series, and then that was sort of the beginning of the end of my time, and that certainly happens. And it can, you sort of look at it and go.
Could you see it happening? Did you feel like a player does? They have a bad game and they go, maybe I've got one more game if I don't get the next one right. Did you feel that anxiety of, sheesh, what could happen at the end of this tour?
Yeah, I probably certainly have felt it. I think I felt it probably more in Bangladesh, if I was honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and just because of the passion they have for the game there, and the passion for winning and losing. And but I think, there's certainly been times when I'm a lot settled now, a lot settled. But I don't think you never count your chickens in this game. You always got to make sure that you're working hard, and I think that's certainly something that I've always felt that if I'm working hard, maybe there's career gods, and I don't know if there's career gods when it comes to being a coach, but sometimes I think there is, because it's amazing, the harder that I've worked, the more specific that I've worked, like, for example, Bangladesh, there was used to be so much going on with the boys there, like Dhaka, huge place, millions and millions of people. The drive to the shop down the road could take anywhere to 40 minutes to an hour and a half. And there's so much external noise. So what I did in my role as coach there, I was almost like at times a coach sort of manager, where I just basically tried to keep the noise out and let the boys play, and try and and I always felt then is that the harder that I worked, that was the advantage of unfortunately not having my family there, gave me an opportunity to basically, if I had to work 14-hour days, I just did. And you just belted them out, and the next day it might be a little 6. That all evens out, but you have days where you just got to work really hard, have as many conversations as you possibly can with guys.
What was the end of the World Cup like over here, man? What was that whole sort of tournament, and then the greatest game of cricket ever? What did that do to you?
It's been tough. Post that you think about it a lot. You think about the thing that comes up for me personally, and I'll just talk personally. I think 15 or 4 balls That's the first thing I think of. So whenever I've been in a game this year, there's been a couple of those actually,
Yep.
15-4, and then all of a sudden, all that rings a bell.
Yep.
And and that was when we were bowling. Sorry, and then that was when it sort of all changed. And it was just an amazing tournament. Just like exceeded all my expectations. I've never been to one. I'd been to 5 T20 World Cups, but I'd missed out on the big one, and it was long. It was hard. Missed home. A long way time from home because my family couldn't come, but at the same time, it was such a special thing to be a part of. And the post, it was really hard for the team because we basically came back, and it was so great to go so far and get so close, but there's always two sides to the story. We went from being the World Cup, home for literally 2 and a bit weeks, Sri Lanka, and that was hard. That was hard because you go from 50 over cricket to Test cricket, and with that was really hard. You had to really try and park it. It was real, but hard to you basically. If you're really honest, you fall asleep at night still thinking about it. Sometimes I still do every now and then. But you sort of go, someone on the phone to me the other day said, if it was the other side of the fence, would anything change? And obviously we would have won the World Cup, but in terms of the way that you live your life, and it was actually a really good point. It's like, you enjoy the moment for what it was. You're part of a very special game. And I still remember just little things that happened when we were bowling. I was doing my little walk around to see a couple of the guys, and next minute they're singing the Colin the Granholm song, and every dot ball. So every dot ball, they just started clapping, and then another one, and all of a sudden we started pegging England back. And then all of a sudden you could feel something brewing, and then just that whole. Like that stuff like that, I talk about it now, and I just start to, my hairs on my back. It was really special. Like as I said it before, so honoured to be involved in it. But it was tough post it because, in the change room, and one thing that I really remember is, although we didn't get the win, it just really created so much special memories, but also the way that's helped the team. It's been hard, but at the same time, just that connection with everyone, it was really special. And I'll never forget the last ball. The last ball was, a little secret here. There was 20 guys screaming, come on, Gup, for the last ball. And I've never seen that in my life. Never seen anything like it in a change room where one ball and 20-plus guys, you had the guys that weren't playing and the guys that the support staff and the guys that were playing, like, they were screaming at Gup. I've never experienced anything like it. We all were. And it just, obviously it didn't happen. But that was just, the camaraderie was fantastic and very unique experience.
Wow. Plenty of. I don't say this to pry, but I say this out of me knowing my emotions. There must have been a load of tears in that changing room. 2 guys out there batting, and then the other 20 guys in the changing room. There must have been a few tears in there. Must have just topped over.
Oh, yeah, there's certainly, there was. Certainly, you can't hide. There was tears of joy, tears of happiness, tears of sadness, tears of being so close, and, just a phenomenal, and even sort of post-game on the field, I've got to know Chris Silverwood really well, who's now the coach of England, and he was the bowling coach, and I'm sure we embraced each other and just said, what a heck of a game of cricket, and it was, there's so many people from so many different The opposition coaches and managers and support staff, we're all just going, wow, and just, really proud of the way that the boys handled it. The way that they just handled the whole situation. It was the same thing, same process, post game, like really hard to take, but at the same time, phenomenal tournament, and, very, very proud of the way that the guys, every game was hard, the best against the best, and, you had to win and perform every game.
So you said it was 2.5 weeks until they went to Sri Lanka. How long did it take you to kind of get over it, let alone the guys that are back out in the park? As a coach, did it scar you? Does it still drain you?
Oh, 15 or 4, as I said before, but at the same time, it certainly has been difficult, but you got to get on with it, because there's so many other things that you got to do, that you got to, you got future tours, you've got players. So because obviously the shift was when we went to Sri Lanka, it was you got Test series and T20. So you got a responsibility as a coach. That's you've got to be the grown up, and you're meant to lead by example, and you got to try and park it and move on. But certainly something that chips away at you. But I think now it's certainly a lot more settled, and to see the guys, as I said, bounce back. It was a tough summer for us at home. 3 really good cricket teams to visit and play against. But no, it's Sri Lanka. As I said, you had a test, and then you had T20, so you had all these different players. So you got a responsibility as a coach to, you got to get them ready to play. So you got to move on.
Mate, thank you for sharing that. That's kind of cool having your insight on that World Cup, because sitting here in the UK watching it, it was that game. As a New Zealander, would have been great if New Zealand hadn't won. But as a cricket fan, it was just the most amazing game of cricket that I cried after New Zealand won the semi against India, because I thought, gee whiz, they've done something special again. And at the end of the final, I didn't. And I sort of just put it down to it just being the most amazing game of cricket. And yeah, it doesn't change. It doesn't change a lot. And I spoke to Brendan McCullum about it, about their final, and it didn't change. Doesn't really change much. It's just another column on your stat sheet. World Cup win kind of thing. But it doesn't change that it was just the best game of cricket. Mate, what do you do in your downtime now? What are you doing at the moment? Okay, obviously you're locked down. What are you doing in the mount? Yeah, pounding the streets, bit of jogging.
I get up and do my morning walks, bit of a trot. We do stuff as a family. A 3-year-old that loves hitting a ball, whether it's a golf ball or a cricket ball, and we're renovating.
Awesome.
So we're I've been ripping the guts out of that garden. We that side of the house, I obviously can't see it here, but we ripped pulled out a lot of weeds that time of the year in New Zealand, where you got to attend to the garden post summer. We ripped out a lot of stuff that I've, basically stuff that's been put on the side for a while. Yeah. And the storage shed that's been copping it the last couple of days. We've had a bit of rain, so I've come inside to do some stuff. So a lot of little, you sort of got to plan your day, don't you? You got to, get up in the morning, delay your breakfast as long as possible, then do a few activities around the house, and then then the afternoon shift of it's good because our 3-year-old, he loves to get involved, so it doesn't matter what you're doing. He just he's your shadow. He just wants to help, and so it's been tough, no doubt, because there's little things that you want to do, but at the same time, you just you got to do what you got to do, the right thing. The amount of time that I have spent around you, which isn't as much as most of the guys, some of the guys, what is it that you do outside of cricket? I've never ever had this chat with you. What do you do? What's your thing? TV series? What do you do? Well, when you got, I've had, we've got 5 kids, so there's a bit on there.
Yeah, sure.
Renovating. I used to play a lot of golf, but not anymore.
Yeah, okay.
I think I do love a lot of other sports. So I love my basketball, love my baseball, and looking forward to pretending that I'm a teenager again. I think that Chicago Bulls thing is going to come on, The Last Dance. I think that was when I was in my 96, just out of school, I think. So when I used to play basketball, so I'm looking forward to that. So I enjoy a lot of other sports and podcasts, and a lot of those. It's pretty simple, really. I think because I enjoy my job, so I'm sort of missing that at the moment. It's amazing how you have a few weeks off, and then you're sort of going, looking forward to another game of cricket again. So it's been a while since I've marked out the run-ups. I'm going to forget everyone run-ups. So so looking forward to getting back into it. Not too sure what's ahead at the moment, obviously, but there's always plans in place and backup plans. So sort of we're on 4 weeks holiday at the moment, which is nice for it's been a while since, because we're so busy because we sort of go from one to the next. So
it's been a long season.
It
was a tough season. Shane, thank you so much. That's been awesome. I've enjoyed that a lot. I've got to know you a whole heap better. No, thanks, man. That was cool. There's sort of things that you've always wanted to ask an international bowling coach, but have always been too afraid to. And so thank you for giving me those answers.
No stress, no problem at all,
mate. Take care. All the best to your family, and when you see the guys again back in huddle, say hi from me. But mate, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Good on. No worries.
Right.